We've got George Elek with us this morning, host of the Not the Top 20 pod. George, good morning to you. How you doing?
Yeah, good morning. Good, thanks.
You've heard us withering away there. What are Villa's chances of staying up, do you think?
I think they're probably pretty good. I mean, there needs a lot of reinvestment in the squad. If you look at the players, the loan players who are going to be going back, the likes of Tyrone Mings, Axel Tuanzebe, and of course Tammy Abraham, they're big players and big roles they have to fill. We saw how important the January signings were. Mings especially was so big coming in to shore up that defence. And even in fullback areas, El Mohammadi and Neil Taylor, I wouldn't say are good enough fullbacks for Premier League level. So it's a fantastic day for them yesterday. They deserve their promotion, and they're a massive club who deserve to be in the Premier League. But a big job this summer to get the players that needed to stay up. They've got that foundation with McGinn and Grealish. You assume they're going to try and keep both, and both will stay. And they're both definitely a Premier League quality. But it's going to be, I would have thought, a high turnover of players for Dean Smith to get to work on straight away.
It is a pretty remarkable recovery from where they were kind of November, December time, when it really looked like they were going to finish mid-table. They weren't even close to the hunt for a playoff place.
Yeah, when they conceded 2 goals at home to West Brom, they conceded the most home goals in all 4 leagues. So that's Premier League down to League 2. So it's quite unbelievable that a couple of months later they've been promoted to the Premier League. It's an amazing turnaround of form. As I say, Dean Smith deserves huge credit, because after he was initially appointed, they went through a little purple patch, and then that was followed by what wasn't a very good run of form. I think it was 2 wins in 13 games, whilst Jack Grealish was out with that shin injury. And then Tyrone Mings came in, Grealish came back into the side, and that record-breaking winning run, I think, just galvanised the whole club, and Smith deserves massive credit for that. It didn't look like it was going to be possible for them to get into this position. They were 5 points behind their rivals Birmingham after that game against West Brom, and now Birmingham ended up mid-table after that points deduction, and Villa have gone up. So a huge achievement, and as you say, it didn't look on the cards back in February and March.
Yeah, and did the football that they played over that period of time, was that the thing that got them up? Did they deserve to go up in your view?
Yeah, I think they did. I think one of the key reasons why the relationship between Aston Villa fans and Steve Bruce was never particularly good was because of the football that he was playing with them. And they always had a squad full of qualities, full of attacking flair, full of technical ability. And Bruce was just a very pragmatic manager who didn't really coax the best out of that. And Smith has come in and immediately encouraged his players to express themselves. He said straight away that he needed Grealish to impact games more in the final third. His assists and goals, 2 stats that I think are slightly overrated when judging a player's impact who plays in centre midfield, but they've gone up straight away. And you can see that's because he's understood the need to get these players impacting games more often. And the style of football is very good. It's expansive. He plays out from the back. Having Tuanzebe and Mings, who are very good ball players, as centre-back, has been a huge help for them. And they may have to, and we've seen what happened with Fulham this year, another team who are very, very good at playing passing football and ending up coming unstuck in the Premier League. So he may have to temper that. But at the moment, they look like they could. I mean, Dean Smith's just a very promising manager who I'm excited to see try his stuff in the Premier League.
What about Derby County? I mean, again, no one really knew exactly how Frank Lampard was going to perform as a manager, but that's a very creditable first season.
It is, definitely. It's a tough one to really weigh up, because Derby were amongst the favourites for promotion in the Championship, but then there was Frank Lampard and the fans saying that's definitely not our expectation at all. They started very well in terms of results. The performances weren't great. And I think we've seen Lampard develop into a very good manager over the course of the season. I mean, I personally think he is nowhere near ready for the Chelsea job. I think any Chelsea fans who want Maurizio Sarri to be replaced by Frank Lampard this summer for anything but sentimental reasons need to have another think. Because the fact is that Lampard could one day be a very good Chelsea manager, and he's learning his trade now at the right place, at a club that's going to give him time and support. He's going to continue to use his contacts to bring in very good loan players. And I think, again, yesterday we saw him a little bit naive in his team selection, playing both Huddleston and Bradley Johnson in the midfield too. Was just a bit negative, not starting either Marriott or Waghorn or both. I mean, as soon as they came onto the pitch, Derby were a completely different team, instead siding with Mason Bennett again, as he did against Leeds. So yesterday would have been a big learning curve for Lampard, and one that's going to make him stronger, but there's no chance he's ready for the Premier League at the moment.
What's the actual atmosphere like at these games? Because, I mean, so much hype around the money. I mean, it used to be the 20 million, the 40 million, the 60 million, and now it's the 180 million or whatever it is. Are the fans as feverish at this game as they are at any other game?
The atmosphere was pretty incredible. I mean, Wembley's not known for its atmosphere, but for all 3 games, huge credit to the fans. 85,000 fans there yesterday. Both Derby fans and Villa fans making a lot of noise. The Charlton fans were absolutely phenomenal on Sunday, it has to be said. A club who've gone through a lot of turmoil recently with an absent owner in Du Châtelet, who hasn't been the greatest guy. I've been to the Valley many times in recent years, and there have been very few home fans, no atmosphere at all. But they turned out in their masses on Sunday and made a hell of a noise. So they deserve credit for that. And yesterday, again, was a huge spectacle. Villa fans were fantastic. Derby fans were very, very loud in the last 15 minutes after they got the one back. And I was lucky enough to go to all 3 games, and it's been a really enjoyable weekend.
Sunderland, after the humiliation of the relegation that they've suffered, and then the added humiliation of the documentary series where everybody's basically laughing at the laughingstock of the club, had an opportunity to kind of redeem themselves. Sometimes this is a staging post, but sometimes a defeat like that is a dagger to the heart, and it can take half a decade to recover. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what they do now. I'm of the opinion that Jack Ross has had a very, very poor first season in charge of Sunderland. I mean, they're a huge club for League One level. They've ended up finishing 5th. I think they're flattered to deceive for most of the season as well. Even when they were second early on in the season, they had their keeper, John McLaughlin, to thank for that. He was arguably the best player in League One this season. There's another Netflix series coming out on the back of this campaign, so that's going to be interesting to see. With Johnny Williams obviously coming off the bench to be the star for Charlton after his protagonist role, let's say, in the first series. And the new owners are going to have an interesting decision to make, because the fans lost their faith with Ross towards the end of the season. The attendance for the Portsmouth game in the semi-final was their lowest of the season at home. They struggled to sell out their allocation at Wembley, which is unheard of for them. It's a massive club with a huge fan base, and they're not... They thought that this spell in League One was going to be a one-season spell, and they were excited for it, to score some goals and win some games and bring the good feeling back. And that hasn't been the case now. And the fact that they've got so many attacking players at their disposal, Will Grigg coming in for a couple of million quid in January, Aidan McGeady on the wing, and they still just can't really find a way to create chances regularly. And that has got to come down to the manager. So in my opinion, that there are a few managers out there who'd be better suited to the role. Ryan Lowe, who's looked set to leave Bury, who made them into a really good attacking team. Got Nicky Maynard back on the back, scoring hatfuls of goals. So if he can do that for Maynard, I'm sure he can do it as well for Will Grigg. And we'll see in the next week or so, I guess, whether or not Sunderland are going to stick or twist.
George, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Cheers.
It's George Elek there from the Not the Top 20 podcast.